Hey folks, this is me, Vishwanath. I'm the host of this DevOps champion because a lot of times you have realized that, everybody is having some sort of an insight and, we need to honor them at any time. I really felt that, through a community of Build Piper, it's a humble attempt from my side and the community side that we are here to honor best people that we could just get our hands on, and we're just giving them an honor saying that they are the DevOps champion. It's all about collecting that insights that they have carried in the industry, that industry hustle that they have already gone through. And also a lot of times, we have to unlearn something and relearn some aspects of any technology. Let it be you're the best in the Terraform, you have to unlearn some things. You're best in the Kubernetes, you have to unlearn something. So at the end of the day, it's all about evolving IT culture, SDLC lifecycle, you name it, there is always an evolution. So I welcome Vishwanath sir for this podcast. It's a journey. DevOps is never a destination. It's a discovery. So Build Piper is one of the product which is always in order to help you guys in your own DevOps journey. So thank you so much, sir, for being on the show. It means a lot.
Thanks a lot, Vishwanath, for inviting me to the start.
Yes. So let's just start with this question. We had this talk about accessibility in DevOps, right? What is accessibility? Why is it required? It's not something that is taken care by every product. Sometimes it becomes complex. Sometimes it's like, can I learn it? That will be the question. So how important is accessibility in DevOps, and how DevOps tools are making an impact in accessibility today? Like, what do you see in the tools that are coming out in the market?
Okay. So first, to just start off with the term accessibility, right? So I have seen the days wherein we just started off with the DevOps process in our company, say, for example, 6 to 8 years before. So the bare minimum step what we had was like, okay, we had set up an automated build pipeline. So whenever people check in the code to GitHub, the pipeline used to trigger. So that was the starting thing of what we had, the automated pipelines or something as such. Okay. So the problem at that point of time was we had to have a separate team called as a DevOps team who used to configure the build nodes, and they used to configure the build jobs. And if at all, if something would happen at the build node ends or at the build servers, so we had to contact the DevOps team. Okay, so that was where the problem was. And today, if you ask me, with the recent evolution of DevOps tools, like say, for example, CodeFresh or the Build Piper tools or something as such. So the way they have carried out the entire process is really amazing. Like if you compare the like say tools which were available 4 years and to the present day tools, right? So now there is no concept of say build nodes or something. So everything is managed. Everything is given to you as a managed service. Okay. So you can just set up your pipeline, and then you can get in your own Docker container image, and then you can start triggering the build stages. Like say for example, what I mean by that is like your build can happen with one Docker image, your test can happen with another Docker image, your deployment can happen with another Docker image, your integration tests can happen with another Docker image within the same pipeline. So this is the advancements which I have seen recently over the last couple of years. And this is where the terms called as accessibility comes into picture. So nowadays, there is hardly any disconnect between the developers and the DevOps team, right? So the DevOps team, probably they might manage the managed environments. Whereas like if at all, if there's something goes wrong inside the pipeline or something, it is up to the developers to go and figure out and then fix those problems. So the line is thinning between, the line is getting thinner and thinner day by day between the DevOps personnel and the developers. So this bridges the gap between the accessibility and the what do you say, different cross-team interactions too. So right now, the kind of tools, whatever we are seeing in the DevOps market, has a lot of accessibility features, which I think everyone needs to explore such tools.
Yeah, I know Build Piper is one of them, but we always have that one positioning. It's something like we always say to the customers, like microservices is a first-class citizen in our product. Like We don't care how much is the load that goes behind in getting all these features onto that production environment. We have everything accessible. Like a person who doesn't know or have a knowledge about Kubernetes can just come in. But today, when I talk about all these things, it's all about Artifactory management. Like Bill Piper has its own portfolio, but I wanted to know how is industry dealing with the today's way of Artifactory management, because a lot of times this is something that we might overlook upon. Like we might not annotate the artifacts properly. We might not have a log about all these build and a deployment process that is happening. So I wanted to know how is a modern age Artifactory management working out, and how can and kind of a SaaS tool like Build Piper make an impact?
Okay. So one of the biggest challenges in Artifactory management is like we need to have different Artifactories for different pipelines in our environments. Like say, what I mean by that is for a dev environment, we need to have a separate Artifactory. For QA, we need to have a separate Artifactory, and for prod, we need to have a separate Artifactory so that these pipelines would be able to pull those particular images and then it will be able to deploy it. So the greatest challenges in the Artifactory management is like say, for example, once you have deployed a build to the development Artifactory. So how do you take it all along from the test pre-prod to the production Artifactory? So here comes the Artifactory promotion management, so that you have to build it once and get it promoted to the higher environment. As far as I have seen with the tools like CodeFresh and BitPiper, so they take care of this Artifactory management in such a good way. Like one signs up for the BitPiper account, so based on the environment needs, so that many Artifactories would be provisioned, and they take care about promoting the artifacts from dev to QA based on the pipeline rules. Like say, for example, if you have an integration test which passes, and then you can set up the rules saying that the code has to be deployed from dev to QA and to the higher environments based on the number of tests you have in the or the gates you have in the pipeline. So having such tools eases your deployment or your code promotion process or the Artifactory management process in a lot more better way.
Sure, like a lot of times when I think about things like this, can we really manage artifacts to a golden standard? Like something like, you know the build number, you know everything, but can you really get the chance to understand what is there in that entire artifact that we built right now? And also today, when I see about something called as deliverables and promotion in the microservices, it's always a dilemma that comes in like, hey, can we roll back quicker? Can we adapt to the new ways in which we are deploying faster? We have canary deployment as a template. Like you need not have to do a canary deployment strategy. We have a canary deployment template. You can just use it. But now when I talk about what are the challenges that industry face today in deploying to microservices, there are huge impact that every open source products are doing. Of course, we have an open source thing as well. It's opst.github.io. I'll just put the link in the description. So there are a lot of challenges that we are facing today. So what are the challenges that we face today deploying to microservices? How can tools like BuildPiper help us in getting the right solution for this entire building process? Because a lot of times when I see how developers go puzzled about where is the code moving, it's a different strategy that DevOps team has to build in. So how is tools like BuildPiper going to impact in the way in which we are going to have the deliverables to the microservices?
Okay. So one of the fundamental challenges which BitPiper has solved is like as a developer. So I'm wearing the hat of a developer now. Say for example, I'm in a fast-paced agile delivery cycle, and say for example, every 3 days or every week there are releases. Then the number of releases to the production will be huge within a month. Say for example, if you even consider say 8 releases in a month, that itself is a huge for a single microservice. And the kind of challenges we see is like say for example we roll out a particular version to the production, and if we face certain issues in the production build, right, So one of the fundamental problems what we face is like, how do we trace it back to the source code or the commit number, right? So whenever somebody reports saying that something is wrong in a particular running instance, so how do you trace it back to the source code? So Bitpiper has solved it wonderfully by taking in the commit numbers and then appending it into the final build, sorry, your final version numbering systems, so that at any given point of time, whatever code is being deployed in the production environment, so that can be easily traced back to the commit number of your GitHub or GitLab or any Git tools, whatever we use for our developments. So given such flexibilities like or solving such kind of a problems in a generic way. So I would definitely recommend Build Piper's capability to trace back the build versioning system from the running instance or in the production to the source code commit numbers.
Sure. I always wanted to ask this question to any person who is in the SDLC lifecycle. Scalability. Scalability is something that we always look back at, right? We know for sure that Kubernetes is there for building out that scalability as one of its own features, right? We know for sure that Kubernetes is going to be there in our entire infrastructure. But today, when we think of the challenges that scalability also gives us, like, is it enough? That is what we always come up with. So what is the need of the hour when we talk about scalability? So how is Kubernetes managed in the modern day era of modern day Kubernetes and microservices? And also, how do you think tools like Piper make it much more accessible in terms of getting that scalability? Because we have HPAs, horizontal pod autoscalers, and we have a lot in terms of getting that deliverables right. We also have Power Apps which are coming up with amazing features, plus we do have other features like downtime schedulers. We still have a lot of things in terms of integration with other services as well. So I wanted to know, how is scalability going to be looked at in the future, and how are the modern age microservices scaled, and what are the challenges that tools like Piper or any other tool can really solve in the world?
Yeah. So when it comes to scalability, this is a very, very tricky problem to solve in any company, right? So the problem with scalability is like all of a sudden the traffic picks up, and the number of instances of your services or the servers which are running needs to be scaled up in an exponential way in a very short period of time. Okay, and also it needs to be scaled down whenever the traffic is down. Okay, so the one way in which Kubernetes solves this is by having the rules set in as horizontal pod autoscalers, and we can also set in some custom rules through Kubernetes. But managing all these things require a lot of expertise in Kubernetes. Okay, so one advantage of going with tools like Piper is that they have what do you say? Like they have an interface on top of the native Kubernetes to manage all such rules, wherein you can configure all these things as policies, and then anybody can change these policies at any given point of a time, and these take effect into the cluster. And also, like the Piper has a lot of integration with the cloud providers. So if like say if I'm a company and if I'm tied up with Azure and I want to spin up a Kubernetes cluster as a part of my deployment process, like say whatsoever the requirement may be, like say for example, if I want to do my system testing, I need to spin up a Kubernetes cluster, and if I say that okay, my downstream infrastructure is the Azure, which I need to spin up a Kubernetes cluster. So we do, Bitpiper do have plugins which can spin up a Kubernetes cluster on your behalf in just a single button click, provided we give all the cluster details for Bitpiper. So it has a lot of interfaces to manage all the scalability aspects, as well as dynamic cluster creation and dynamic cluster teardown. So this is a wonderful feature if you want to go fast to the like say from code to production.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights. It's all about that. It's all about giving that accessible solution to the world today. How can world really understand that, hey, you know what? There is nothing called as a product, but it's all about that culture that we want to develop. And tools like Build Viper is going to help you in building that culture, building that trend in your SDLC lifecycle to deliver to the microservices faster. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such great insight. It means a lot when you are sharing such great insights on the DevOps champion. And also, it's very motivating for the other people who are now developers, but now going to start their DevOps journey. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Vishwas. It was my pleasure talking to you.